Okay.
I need to turn that off, but that's going to be bad. There we go.
Okay.
All right, so we are live. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Talking Amongst Our Shelves, the live show where we ramble on about books and bookish accessories and our plans for reading and all of that. So tonight we're going to be talking about our goals for the year. And not all of them are like firmly in place, but the ones that we have firmly in place thus far. But first, like we usually like to do, we are going to open up with what we're currently reading. So I guess Becky, would you like to go first this time and tell us what you're reading right now?
Sure. So I will talk about some of the audiobooks I'm listening to because I'm currently doing a buddy read with Bethany. So I will let her talk about that one a little bit, unless you want me to talk about it. But for my book group, my real life book group that meets about every other month, the book we chose for January was All the Light. I forget what the pronoun is. All the light we cannot see, or all the light you cannot see. Set in World War II, following two characters. We've been listening to the audiobook on my husband's phone, so I have no clue how far we are because I haven't been able to see the progression bar. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm listening to it with my husband, so that's something where we can be discussing the book live time. Like sometimes we'll even pause it and be like, okay, blah, blah, blah. Or because I'm somewhat notorious with daydreaming, my husband will pause it and be like, did you catch that? Because this is like very symbolic, and I just want to make sure that you caught this, because he's much more of an auditory learner than I am. So, and I've been known to fall asleep during when I really like the narrator for audiobooks because the voices are so calming. So I'm listening to that, and I'm listening to, I can picture the cover. It was kind of a popular novel. I just started it, so thousands movie. Oops, that was the actual audiobook. The Husband's Secret by
Leanne Moriarty.
Leanne Moriarty. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be any good or not, but I put it on my wait list as just something to listen to, and my hold came up. So we'll see. I'm only like an hour in, so I'm still being introduced to characters. I don't even really know what it's about. So
I know Katie from Life Between Words really likes Leanne Moriarty.
Yeah, I listened to oh my gosh. I listened to one of her books last fall, and it was engaging. Like the plot moved very quickly. It's not something I'd be like, oh my gosh, like literally it was the greatest book ever. But if you just want a page turner, that's kind of still light to read. And I do like that she's Australian and they're set in Australia, because I realized I read very few Australian books. And there are some lovely Australian booktubers, and I feel like I need to learn more about their lovely country. So, and it's just great having an audiobook with an Australian accent, because we Americans love accents.
Yes, we do.
We really do.
That's why I really enjoyed The Dry, because it was yeah, he just had like a really cool accent, so that was fun. But there was, I forget which name it was, one of the main characters' names, because of his accent I thought it was a totally different name, and of course now I'm drawing a blank on it, but then I actually read it out and I'm like, oh, that's not what I was hearing him say at all.
Oh, that happened in Jane Eyre, because we would listen to it like on the audiobook, and her brother, I was like, oh, I thought his name was Sinjin or Sinjin. I don't know how you say that, but like, and it's like St. John, and I was like, wait, hold on a second, I'm reading this all wrong.
Yes. Yeah, I think I've heard most British people say Sinjin. They say St. John, they say it Sinjin.
Yeah.
Which, how did that ever happen? But
oh, really?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Becky's like, this is fascinating news. Wait, what? Did you audiobook it?
No, I read it.
Okay, because I don't know if every audiobook did it or does it, but I know the one I was listening to when I was like a teenager with my family in the car, we were listening to it on CD, and it was like St. John. And then I was like reading it in like the physical copy, and I'm like, wait, oh. And it like took me a minute because I was like, I just assumed it would be spelled different, and I wasn't like connecting the dots.
Yeah.
Right.
The nerd in me now wants to research the history of Christian names in England.
Well, do, and then you can text us and report back to us.
Okay. Please. On one of my late night Wikipedia, Google funny trails, it'll be like, 10 o'clock at night, which is late for me. And I'll be like, guys, learn this piece of information that no one else cares about.
That's awesome.
Any other currently reading, Becky?
Other than my buddy read with Bethany, I don't think so. There might be one that I'm forgetting, but I think that's it for now.
All right, Bethany, then, do you want to talk about what the buddy read is?
Nevermore. Sorry about the glare.
Oh.
Actually, I don't know if it's called Nevermore or The Trials of Morgan Crow, or if it's Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan.
I think it's Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow.
Okay. Because I'm confused, like, what the sequel, I think I've seen it, like, Wondermore, maybe, or?
Wonder Smith, I think.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm, like, thinking the more. Anyway, so this is middle grade. It's actually pretty hilarious because I take my kids to the library regularly, and they're both toddlers, and I end up getting anywhere from, like, 12 to 19 books for them in one trip, and this is, like, usually once to twice a week. So they know me, they've seen me come in, and I pick up this book. And the guy behind the counter, he's like a young librarian. He's like, is that for you, or do you have an older child? I'm like, it's for me. It's a buddy read. I've seen it going around on like Bookstagram and BookTube. And he's like, whoa. What's BookTube? What's Bookstagram? And I'm like, well, it's YouTube and Instagram. It's just the people who post content about books. It's like the community name for it, for all the, I don't know, people who, the channels or the, is it a channel when it's Instagram? I don't remember what it's called.
Account.
Account.
I don't know.
Account, yeah. Channels and accounts. So those that post about books and bookish things, that's the community. And so he's like, oh, give me a name of someone to like check out, because I need to be aware of this. I'm a librarian. And I'm like laughing so hard, but I'm like, he cracked me up that he thought I had a middle grader that was like, what age is that? Like 12? I'm like, seriously? I will beat you over the head with this book. But anyway, this is, so far I am like, I don't know how far Becky is.
I finished 7? Our stop point before we discussed it.
Oh, okay, so you're farther. I'm only at chapter 7. And so Morgan is this cursed child who's supposed to die on midnight of eventide. It's very like fantasy oriented. You have to like understand the world, and they just throw you kind of into the world, or she does, the author. And so when you're thrown into the world, you're just kind of discovering things like pretty rapidly. So it makes it really interesting and like page turner. And it's really easy to read. Obviously, it's middle grade, so it's like fun. And you're like, oh, what does this mean? What's the significance of this? And you keep kind of putting things aside in your mind to be like, okay, I'm waiting for the mystery of this particular thing to like come out. They say if you like Harry Potter, this is a good one to try. So I don't know yet. It's been good so far, but like I said, I'm only 7 chapters in, and Becky's further. I don't know if she's still liking it. I need to catch up. I wanted to read more today.
I don't want to like. I'm curious when you get to your point, because there are some things that I think I'm like, am I reading too far into this? Because I'm pulling out these ideas that I don't know if anyone else will see them or not. Because I feel like it's easy to read into children's books too much, but I also think it's easy to really underestimate children's books. Right. So I'm at this weird point where, because I'm only halfway through the book, I'm like, ooh, I don't know what's happening. Like, I'm still kind of navigating my way through this world, and I think things are kind of going this way, and they might mean this, but I might also just totally be putting way too much weight on these insignificant things, and I might need Bethany to toss me down the cliff. I don't know. But I keep highlighting things where I'm just like, I need to ask her if this is symbolic or if I'm crazy. But yeah, but it's been really fun. And I don't usually enjoy fantasy.
Right.
But I keep finding that I want to pick this up, which I guess is a good sign, that I'm not like, oh yeah, I have to trudge through this. Like I keep wanting, I mean, obviously I'm ahead of Bethany because I was like, I need to find out what happens next. So yeah, but I'm really curious to see how the other half goes because I'm still kind of like disoriented a little bit.
Sure. It's interesting because it kind of reminds me a little bit of The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I don't know if you've read that one, Becky.
I haven't.
I did it during middle grade March of 2018. And just the idea that there's this child that's sort of set apart and has this doom awaiting them in a way. And like with that book, the doom was not necessarily a doom. It was just sort of ignorance. So I'm wondering if this was the same thing. Like as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, is she really cursed, or is this something they're making up? And like, I think even The Giver kind of has the same sort of flavor of like children being taught one thing and made to believe a certain way about things, but the reality is different. Like, oh, well, you know, people, they're gonna go off somewhere and really something bad is happening to them, or the opposite, you know. So I don't know. I'm interested to see which way it goes. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be really cool. I'm really like enjoying the uniqueness, but yet like some of the aspects that are kind of like fantasy, like Harry Potter, and sort of that like fun, whimsical magicalness that's in The Girl Who Drank the Moon. So it's good so far. And I'm gonna start this one thanks to Becky. The Death of Mrs. Westaway.
Yes.
And well, as soon as she said, didn't she say it was like the 13th tale a little bit?
So it's not like 13th tale. I just got very strong 13th tale atmosphere vibes.
I am on board. I'm here for that.
Yeah, like the suspense with some twists. I don't know. I will warn you, I read it when I had a stomach bug and I had nothing better to do, so it could just be the state of mind I was in. I was like, this is the best thing ever because it's a great distraction. It was, I will tell you, the first couple chapters I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I don't know. But then I kind of got pulled into it, and I kept reading, I'm like, this reminds me of the 13th tale. It's not quite as literary as the 13th tale, but it's very atmospheric.
Okay. Well, I'm here for that because I will say I read a lot. I read 90 books in 2018, and like some of them were really good. Yeah, thank you. But I would say looking back on that year, that was my favorite of all the books I read. And, you know, contributing factors for that, like just having a buddy read and having it at like one of the first books. It might have been the first book I read.
It was one of the first books we read we buddy read.
You're talking about the 13th tale?
Yeah. So I think that was like every time I think about it, I'm like, oh, I loved it. So I'm like, I think that was like my number one, my like top favorite of that year. It might not be my top favorite book of all time, but like that year of my reading year, that was like an amazing reading experience. So I was like,
high bar.
There's anything that's off.
I'm now nervous. I'm like, oh no, maybe her expectations. I don't know. I always get nervous recommending a book to people because I'm like, just because I liked it doesn't guarantee that someone else will. And I'm like, oh no, what if their expectations are high and they hate it? I'll feel like a bad person.
No, don't. It's fine.
This book, it's really good. And then once they say they're going to read it, be like, actually, it really sucked. So I hope you like it more than I did.
Play mine again.
You know, it was it was all right. Yeah, it was whatever.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just like, it's a mystery, and if it's got some atmosphere to it like that gothicness, I'm gonna like really be interested to see. I always kind of keep an open mind like going into it because I'm like, you know, I can't set expectations too high, but like I'm really excited to read it because it does look really interesting.
So I have to warn you, read it with like a cup of tea or something, because again, I was reading this with a stomach bug. And there are so many scenes that describe like cold rain or drafty winds that I couldn't figure out if it was the book or if I had chills from my stomach bug.
Aww.
So I was like, I'm cold, but I don't know if it's me or if it's the book.
Well,
That's
maybe
so
I should go pick up The Dry by Jane Harper and like read a little bit in this one and then read some in that one. So I'm balancing atmospheres a little bit.
There you go. Just that we've had a few people saying hello. So Laura says hi. Rainy Day Reed says hi. Grace Taylor says hi from Australia. Hello. And Rainy Day Reed says, I'm really excited to read Nevermore and Wondersmith this year. I'm planning to read them in March for middle grade March. All right.
Nice.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
I will say, Bethany, Becky, I don't know if you guys in The Dry are meant to be. Because if you, like, if Death and Holy Orders was too much, The Dry is a bridge too far. I mean, okay, I'll just say, this is not a spoiler, because this is, this from the very beginning. A whole family is murdered. So, yeah. So I guess it's not like, once you know that, it's not like after that there were other things I was super traumatized by, but it's just a very sobering crime.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think necessarily. I don't know. I don't want to spend too much time thinking about it, but I don't think Death and Holy Orders, at least for me, I can't speak for Bethany. I don't think this was necessarily like too much. I think
too gruesome.
Yeah, I think it was more. There was some, and I still haven't been able to pinpoint it, and I wish I could. There was something about the writing style that didn't quite click with me.
Yeah,
but I don't feel like I can critique it because I've never been able to pinpoint what it was.
Yes, that's interesting.
And so I don't know, and I haven't read enough of P.D. James's other books to know if it's her writing style or if there was something about that specific book. Yeah. So I do want to try more of her books this year.
I think it's really hard with mysteries because we read so many of them, so we know what we like, but we can't always verbalize it.
Yeah. Right.
I tried A Free Man of Color, which is, I wanted like a Southern detective series. So this was set in New Orleans in like the 1830s. So it's still like slavery is still legal.
Yeah.
But there was something about it. And I kept trying to go with it. And I'm like, I need more like diversity, in my mysteries. I read all of them like set in England. And so I wanted to love it. But I was like, you can't force it. I'm sure I can find another diverse mystery series to love. And not feel like I'm forcing it.
Yeah, it was also just a different kind of mystery because I do tend to read more modern ones that are set in early to mid 20th century England, or ones that were written by early to mid 20th century English authors.
Yes.
So it's either like golden age or kind of like a nod or a parody of the golden age.
Yeah.
So, it might just be that I need to explore that genre anymore. Anyway, talk a little bit more about that later. What have you been reading, Kate?
Okay, so rapid fire. First, I started today the audiobook of Lord Edgware Dies by Agatha. Yes, and I think this will be a really good one. So I was, saying in a recent video, like I only read 3 Agatha Christie last year and 2 of them I really didn't like. So I'm moving on past those and really hoping to like this one. So yeah, and I can't, I'm surprised. I've watched all the TV episodes, but so much of the time I forget who the murderer was. I can't believe it. So, but it's really nice because I'm like, there's some kind of twist and I can't remember what it was for this. So it's still fun. It's like I get to experience it all over again. And then The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan. So this is the 8th in the Wheel of Time series. I'm almost halfway.
Wow.
Doris and I are commiserating together and we're reading these. So it's basically it's kind of sad. Robert Jordan, he had gotten really sick with cancer. And he was still writing this. And so you can start to tell, like, it's just kind of like lagging. And he was just like really worn out. So Dave has read the whole series, and he assures me that the latter books like really pay off. So he says, you know, book 8 kind of drags. He says book 9 is awesome. He says book 10 really drags, but then 11 through 14 are amazing. So I'm doing the audiobook of this also. That like helps me like get through it. And then I started on Wednesday a buddy read with Katie from Books and Things of No Name by Wilkie Collins.
Oh, I've read that.
That's on my TBR for this year.
Oh, so Bethany, did you like it?
I did. It's got a really
like
interesting
so
sisters relationship.
Yes, totally. It's like, yeah, kind of like a Marianne and Eleanor one, but I was telling Katie, kind of my ideal for a sensation novel is that it's a sensation novel with a really exciting plot characters. So I'm reading East Lynne at the same time, and I was really enjoying East Lynne, but now I started this, and I find myself a lot more invested in these characters. So it's making East Lynne pale, where I like the plot, but I don't find the characters as interesting. But this one, I'm like really, I'm really enjoying this.
I agree.
Yeah, it's really nice to read this after Armadale, which was like such a struggle. I was able to get into this like within the first page immediately.
Oh, nice.
It starts off, Becky, where he's just really, in the first chapter, he gives these really compelling and engaging descriptions of the characters, so you feel like you just like know them right away.
Oh, interesting, because that's not what I was expecting. I'll be honest, I was expecting it to be almost more of a legal drama.
Yeah, but they're still like the legal stuff is starting up now, but it's still like you see the characters' personalities so much through that.
Ooh,
and like
because I actually was interested in it for more the legal drama side. So if I get legal drama and interesting characters, this sounds fantastic.
Yes. So unless he really, really blows it with this, I think I'll really continue to enjoy this. But what's so crazy is I feel that's like I'm so invested, and I'm only 120 pages out of 600. So yeah, we're taking 2 weeks to read it, which is it seems like so leisurely compared to how quickly you read things during Victober.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really nice. And then there's a spoilery thing. I'll just text Bethany later that I realized it's interesting to compare it to another Victorian novel, but if I say the other one, then it'll like give away stuff. So yeah, also trying to read through East Lynne. And then I started the first in the Betsy Tacy read along, which is just Betsy Tacy. And there was a chapter today that I was like weeping while I read it. And so I don't know if it would like make a lot of people cry, but I think it just struck me. It's something really sad happens, but you're seeing it through the eyes of a child, and just like little details are given, and it's just really sweet and touching. So yeah, I'm very excited about this. The reading comes very easily with these. The one thing I think is kind of a bummer, and it might just be my personal taste, is Lois Lenski did the illustrations for the first 4. I'm not wild about them. Like,
they look like clowns.
Yeah. Like, I really like her illustrations in the Mr. Small books, like Cowboy Small, and they're like little board books. I really like those because they're like cute for that. So then she turned down illustrating the high school books, and I'm like, fine, because I like those illustrations more. And then lastly, an Inspector Lindley mystery. This is Missing Joseph. And these are just glorious, character-driven literary mysteries. So I'm savoring this. So I'm only 75 pages in. I'm trying to read like a chapter a day, hopefully finishing it by the end of January. So
Rainy Day Read says, I know what chapter you're talking about in Betsy Tacy. So sad.
Yes, it was so sad. And I just loved like how they live in a small town, and you can tell like neighbors are like looking out for each other in this. And yeah, it was just, it was so good. So now, half hour to do our currently reading. I thought we could move on and talk about our reading goals for the year. So I think we're just going to go one by one and talk about different ones. So I'll open with my first one. That is the most recent edition, but I'm very excited about it. And I really I don't know if realistically I could do all these. Like I could have added this, but it was just too fun for me not to do it. So Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures and Victoria from Eve's Alexandria are hosting a historical fiction reading challenge for the year and calling it Reading Through the Ages. And they have made a whole bingo chart. And so you can do a minimum of 5 books, and it totally counts. But I think Mel said she's an overachiever and she loves historical fiction, so she's going to try to do all of them. So I did have fun looking up possibilities for all of them, but I'm figuring I'm so picky there will be a lot of DNFs. So I just have all the possibilities written out, and then I can feel free to DNF if I want to. But yeah, I mean, they have just examples, some of them. Interwar Europe, medieval China, which I found a Cinderella retelling for that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes. Russia after the revolution, Russia before the revolution, India during the British Raj, which I found a detective mystery for that one. Time travel, I don't know if I said that, ancient Egypt. Oh, and somebody had on the Goodreads group, there is an Agatha Christie that's set in ancient Egypt. That's like a detective mystery.
Oh.
Yeah, death comes as the end.
I'm not familiar with this one.
Oh, okay. And then a very fun challenge, alternative history. So
oh yeah,
I Googled alternative history, and one was one is really famous, but of course I can't think of it right now. But the one that I was like, yes, I want to. Naomi Novik, before she came out with Uprooted and Spinning Silver, had a whole series that's the Napoleonic era, but with dragons. So I was like,
that's awesome.
Yes. And then one that I'm very, very excited for, and a lot of these were available as ebooks through the library, is the Russia pre-revolution. And there's one called Egg and Spoon by Gregory Maguire, which is a fairy tale retelling. So it's nice because it's very loose. Some of them are just pure historical fiction, but some I figure the fairy tale retellings and detective series, I'll really have fun with it. So yes,
that's really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So let's see who has one they're ready to do next.
Becky's like, I don't want to. No, she does. Go, Becky.
So back, I forget when this was. I think it was in the fall. I had put on Instagram, hey, if I were to come on Insta stories and talk about books, what would people be interested in hearing about? Did I ever follow through with this? Not really, because I'm busy, and doing Insta stories takes a long time. You people that do it,
God.
It takes a good half hour, and then they have to upload and do all this stuff. So anyway, so I kind of stuck on doing that. But my sweet sister-in-law messaged me, and she was like, what are some books out of your comfort zone? Like things that you wouldn't normally pick up. And I was like, oh, I guess I kind of subconsciously know what I never pick up, but I never really sat down and made a list of what I never pick up, or things that I'm afraid to read or intimidated to read. So I kind of sat down and thought about it, and then I messaged Bethany and Kate, and I'm like, wow, I think in 2019, I really want to take this as a challenge and just generally try to find some books in my comfort zone, because I realize there are some genres that I think I don't like, but I have read books in that genre that I do like. So I always say I don't like fantasy, but I love Harry Potter. I think I don't like science fiction, and I haven't read much science fiction, but I think if I were to look at the science fiction books I have read, I think there's only one I didn't really enjoy, and that was The Time Machine by H.G. Wells. But I really enjoyed War of Worlds. So I'm still kind of working through my list, but a really big category that for years I've been intimidated by is Russian literature. And I do love Anton Chekhov's plays, But any other Russian literature, I've just been terrified to pick up because it's slightly, I mean, it is different from an American culture. So I worry that I'm not going to be able to appreciate it as much. I worry that it's going to be challenging for me to read. And a lot of them are very long. But my same sweet sister-in-law said that she really enjoyed the Brothers Karamazov. And my husband really enjoys Dostoevsky. And so we actually found this when we were visiting family over the holidays in this nice modern library edition. So I picked it up, and one of my goals is to read through this. I don't know if I will do any Tolstoy this year or not. We'll see.
Okay,
I'm at least just going to start with this. I also find French literature really intimidating. Last year, I did take my time and I read Count of Monte Cristo, and I enjoyed that. But for some reason, I don't know, French literature, I think I'm not going to like. So, Russian literature is one, and then another genre that I say I don't like, but I've technically read some things in that genre that I do like, is romance. People are like, oh, it's a romance, and I'm like, nope, not for me, not going to like it. But I do enjoy Pride and Prejudice, and a lot of Jane Austen books a lot of people consider romance. So I really want to read Emma. I know both of you love Emma, and I've never read it. And I've heard a lot of people say if it's not Pride and Prejudice that's their favorite Jane Austen, it seems to be Emma. So I'm like, wow, it seems to be really popular. I know some people actually prefer it over Pride and Prejudice. So I'm like, okay.
Yay!
I know it's about a matchmaker. It's Jane Austen. There's bound to be some romance. I saw the film in college, but I don't really remember anything about it. So, like, I'm not going in blind, but I feel like I'm going in blind.
I would say, like, the plot of Pride and Prejudice, I like a bit more, but the characters in Emma, I think I'm more, like, drawn to.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So I'm excited to read it, and I know you guys have really enjoyed it. So I'm excited to give it a try. And then I did read one Susanna Kearsley. Is that her last name?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Last year. And what was it? The Rose Garden that you really enjoyed, Kate?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to see if my library has it, but I'm toying. I don't know when I'll read it, but I'm toying around with trying that one this year as well.
Did you read Mariana?
Yes, I did. Okay. And I surprisingly enjoyed that, and I think that one would definitely be classified as a romance.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're.
So yeah. I'm like, okay, I'll give these a try.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And there were a couple other genres like Kate, guys. This is going to be a whole thing. Like, I will let you know when I pick up Wives and Daughters, and Kate will do a celebratory dance.
My life's mission is to get Becky to read Wives and Daughters.
It's true. Also, one thing I will say, I have yet to find poetry that I enjoy, which I know makes me sound like a terrible human being.
Same.
But Edgar Allan Poe.
Okay. Oh, well, brilliant. I feel like he doesn't count.
He's so morbid. You would love him.
Well, yeah, I've read some of his short stories. Okay, I mean, I guess I do enjoy the Raven. Again, there's a little bit of something for everybody.
That's
okay,
true.
But I don't know if it's because I'm not smart enough to enjoy poetry or.
I love poetry. Like, no, you don't have to be smart to love poetry. You can just love it.
Well, here's the other thing. I'm not like. Kate, you often talk about being a romantic reader with a capital R, about how you enjoy descriptions of nature and enjoy descriptions of emotions. I'm not as much of a romantic reader.
But you like Jane Eyre.
I do. But I don't know. Like and that's why I want to do this reading books out of my comfort zone, because I'm like, well, I'm not a romantic reader. Well, I don't like descriptions of nature. Well, I don't like it when people get so emotional. Like, no, facts, please. This is why I read mysteries. Like, I'm emotional enough. I don't want to deal with other people's emotions. Like, no, go away. Not for me.
I don't want to be with her oversharing.
Yeah, no. Which is funny because I love getting to know people on a deep level, but like, I joke with my husband sometimes. I'm like, dreamers and I do not get along. Like, it took me a while, like even as a kid, and I apologize. I enjoy Anne of Green Gables now, but the first time I read Anne of Green Gables, I was like rolling my eyes as a kid because I was such a practical child that I was like, Anne, what are you doing? I have grown to love Anne over the years. I've read Anne of Green Gables more than once. I enjoy it.
Yes.
But the first time I read it, I was just like,
she's extra, as they say.
she is extra. And I forget how old I was when I first read Anne of Green Gables, and I was just like such a practical child. I had very little empathy for Anne. Now that I'm older, I'm like, well, yeah, actually, yeah, okay. I get it. But all that to say, I do think there's probably something in every genre. There's something out there that I could enjoy. So
yeah, this is what I think about.
I'm determined to find something. And I was thinking about this before we went live. I think I'm very hesitant to start books out of my comfort zone because I don't like DNFing. Because I feel like a quitter. So I think if I were to get more comfortable with knowing I could quit a book, I'd be more willing to step out of my comfort zone and try something new. But I think I'm just so hesitant to dip my feet in the water and just dip my toe in the water and just be like, I don't know if I'll like this. And if I don't like it, I have to finish it.
Becky, would you rather have a month of reading ruined because you had a chore of reading a book you detested every day, or would you rather just not finish a book that you knew wasn't for you?
I know.
What if you set a page limit? Like if I don't like it in X amount of pages.
Yeah, I think it would depend on the book though. Like I feel like it'd have to be more percentage than page.
Okay.
Because I feel like, the Count of Monte Cristo is like 1,200 pages. So if I only read 50 pages, I wouldn't feel as though I was giving it a chance. I feel like I'd have to read 300.
Yes.
But some other novels are only 300 pages long. In which case, I may be able to get a better understanding at 50 or 100 pages. So I think I'd have to set more of a 25 or 33%.
Yes.
Portion.
Yeah.
So
Bethany,
yeah.
What is your reading goal?
Well, my first reading goal is to finish A Suitable Boy, which I didn't finish in last year, but I got like 400 pages through,
which is like a book, basically.
A book. And basically what I need to do is I need to break it down and like dedicate a certain amount. Like anytime I have time to read, like, okay, if I'm going to sit down and pick up a book, read 50 pages or whatever, pick a page number. And I think if I do that, it'll be less daunting. Because I think I feel like I like the story and stuff, but there's a lot of switching between the main characters.
Yes.
And that's the only thing that's hard for me is I get drawn into one story. And I know I've mentioned this with like short stories. It's like if it's going to keep me keep my attention, I need to be focused on like the one character and what's happening next and what's happening. If you pan over to a different character, I'm gonna be like, wait, I wasn't done. I want to find out what happens to this one. So I kind of have to like approach it differently.
Yes.
I think if I approach it differently, I'll do better because I really want to read like the whole thing. I'm really intrigued. And that's another thing, like out of my comfort zone, like different cultures. I know Becky was saying with the Russian literature and the French literature, like you're afraid you're not going to appreciate it enough or understand it enough, or you're not going to it's going to be too hard to read or something, because it's a different culture and you feel like, is it going to be this brilliant masterpiece to me, even though it is world renowned? Is it going to be that way for me because I don't really know much about this culture? So you're kind of worried like, oh man, I'm not going to appreciate it enough. And it's just going to be confusing or whatever. So I want to definitely kind of pick some different cultural, I don't know, backgrounds to like grab books and
Ooh,
yeah.
yeah.
I know the one that I'm also intimidated to read is The Kite Runner. I think that's Afghanistan is where that one
I think that
was
sounds great.
based. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I need to look. I own that one. I just need to like actually like look into it. Sometimes I like to go into a book blind and just kind of like have no expectations, don't know what it's about, and just let it come. But I'm like, I might have to do some research on these cultural, like these different cultural backgrounds, just so I'm a little more aware of like, okay, this is what's going on in this time, especially if it's historical fiction, you know, okay, the political stuff makes a little more sense. So,
Yes.
um, and then like, I don't know, I'm still like, I don't really want to read a comic book. Like, I like comic books like Calvin and Hobbes, but like when I tried manga, is it manga?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. When I tried that, I don't know. I just didn't get as into the story as I was hoping to, so I kind of got disappointed because like maybe that was just not the right one for me.
Are you sure you didn't start at the end accidentally?
I don't know. Yeah. No, I remember my one friend, she told me, she's like, all right, this is like they're kind of backwards.
It's so
And I need
confusing.
yeah, it is a little different. It's a
Yeah.
little different. But I mean, I know there's a book out there that I would be like, "Oh, yeah, I really liked that." But it's just a matter of like, okay, where would you DNF it if you did pick it out and didn't like it with a comic book? It's a little I don't know. It's a little different. So, it's same, I think it's the same thing. It's not really cultural necessarily. It's just the layout and the style. Maybe similar to poetry because like for Becky, she's like, "Oh, I'm not into nature and stuff." But for me, the poetry is more about the words and like how they use like especially rhyming poetry, the
Oh.
rhythm and like the onomatopoeia when the word sounds like what it, means and how it's used to paint a picture, but it's like these clever word usage. It's like a puzzle or something. I don't know. I get like fascinated by it. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like mimicking the sound of bells, like in Edgar Allan Poe's The Bells, his poem. And it's like the way he puts the words together, just, I don't know. It's kind of a weird draw. It's like art. So I don't know how to like put my finger on exactly what it is. I know it's not descriptions of nature or I don't think it's capital R romance, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Would
So
I
it's the
would I
word.
enjoy poetry more if I read it out loud?
Oh yeah.
That's what my dad says. He like every time I talk to him about poetry, he's like, read it out loud, read it out loud.
Okay. Maybe it's less the poetry, maybe it's more I'm doing it in the wrong medium.
Yeah, maybe so. And I think too, one thing Dave said before, my husband said before about poetry was like, when you read a book, somebody has a long time to like figure out what they want to say. They have a
Oh,
really
true.
huge
Yeah.
space. And then when you read a short story, it's whittled down somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you read a poem, it's like this might be a weird analogy, but it's like stock. You know, like when you boil, you make broth, but you make stock instead. You have the bones in there for a long time. Um, so it's really, I think the time that you're supposed to spend analyzing it is a lot longer than it takes to just read it.
Yeah.
So maybe like being willing every time you read it is reading it a couple times.
Hmm.
Not like I'm an expert or anything. I'm just saying what the poetry readers in my life say.
No, I think that's good. About again, I don't feel like I'm smart enough to read poetry. Where I'm
I
like,
feel the same
that's
way.
nice. Someone's in love. I got that. But you're right. Like I don't take long enough to really sink my teeth. It might also just be that the poetry that I was introduced to in middle school and high school, maybe like I read not a lot, selections from William Shakespeare's sonnets. Maybe those just aren't meant for me and I need to
What
read
about
someone else.
like Walt Whitman or something? I know
Yeah.
he's like well known for his poetry.
Yeah. I also feel like a terrible person for saying I did not enjoy William Shakespeare's sonnets in high school, but
I don't think you
Don't
have
feel
to.
bad. I think Walt Whitman would be more up your alley, Kate, because it's more nature like the descriptions of nature.
Yes.
I don't know if
Yes.
Becky would like it, but Becky should try
Okay.
Edgar Allan Poe, for sure, because he's a little more like sinister, and I think she would kind of enjoy that aspect because it's like I get it. Like William Shakespeare is like, I'm in love, let me paint the ways I'm in love with you. Like if you don't like what the poem is saying or you're not into what the poem is saying, you won't appreciate it as much. But if it's about like some raven coming to your window and like telling you like you're doomed forever or whatever. Not I'm over exaggerating it, but like I
can
think
get back. I mean, yeah, I read the Raven. I can get behind that.
you can get into it a little more. I don't know. It's I mean
Guys, I feel like we're
like
on a game show and like you guys are competing to see what kind of poetry I'll enjoy. And you're like, no, she'll like this one because of this. And I'm like the contestant that's like, okay, I've got my sponsors and now I need to go forth and figure out my mission is.
Your blind date with poetry.
poetry blind date. I'll just start sending you a bunch of poems, Becky. Like I'll be texting them to you every day. Be like, here's your daily dose of poetry.
Okay.
I don't know. I thought it was fascinating. I grew up like as a teen. I was like so invested, and I was like writing it myself.
I thought you were nuts.
I won 2 poetry contests.
Whoa.
Yeah, and they like wanted me to come to California and like read my poems at this big library thing, but I could never go, and I was like 15 or something. So I was really young. But I just always was intrigued by like the words and the like yeah, it's a weird I love to write, but like I do not write so much anymore. So I need to, but that should be a whole different resolution. That's a whole nother deal. Right now I'm reading.
Okay, so then my next resolution is a little bit of what Bethany said, how you want to like read from different cultures. So I got a calendar from Aldi that's has a beautiful map of a different country each month. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to read a book translated, or if they speak English, written by an author from that country. I just thought one a month seemed doable.
Mm-hmm.
And this month is Germany. So I'm reading All Quiet on the Western Front, which I did not realize was a German novel.
Yes.
So I felt kind of silly. I'm like, I don't know why I didn't realize that wasn't a German novel. But anyhow, 3 chapters in, and it's very compelling. Obviously, it's not a happy read. But it's just a very up close and personal picture of life for these soldiers. So it's very good. And next month is Australia. And I have like 3 Australian books that have popped up. But the one that I think will be like the most lighthearted and fun is set it's in the 50s, and it's in the ladies' frocks department of a department store.
I heard you talking about this.
Yes,
it sounds
Women
like
in
something
Black.
I'd love.
Yes. So, and Kate from the novel Nomad also loved the movie. The movie came out. I think that was what was the catalyst for her reading it. And then she loved the movie as well. So she said if I could somehow get a hold of it, I should definitely watch the movie too. So I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm very interested. So yeah, I think that'll be a nice little project. And yes, I was telling the ladies, I've been doing a lot more like reading on my phone when I have a spare minute. So a lot of these that I want to read, I found I can check out on my phone. So maybe that's my way that it'll be like my phone reading for the year. So yes,
that's a great idea. I mean, like, Frederick Backman, who wrote Man Called Uva.
Oh,
have you read that one?
I haven't. I've heard a lot of people talk about it and like it though.
Okay,
yeah, I read it.
Swedish.
Yeah.
And he's got like 5, I think, that are pretty well known right now. I think A Man Called Uva is like the top most read or whatever. But I started out with My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. What a title. But like,
oh boy,
my librarian suggested it, and I didn't even know he was Swedish and it had been translated. And like, if anything was a bolster for me for like encouraging me to check out more, books that were translated or books that are from a different culture or country, this was a big one because I was like, oh my gosh, this was such a good book. 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And then I read, A Man Called Uva, and Britt Marie was here. And they're all so good. I really liked it. I stopped at Beartown. I don't know why. Like, I think it's more like a hockey town or something, and I'm not as into sports. So I don't know, maybe I needed to push past that. Maybe I'll pick it up again. I ended up DNFing that one, which is probably, people are going to be like, oh my gosh, you DNF'd Beartown. Like, that is such a spectacular book. But I just was like, okay.
But you liked 4 of his other ones. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, he is such a great author. I really have enjoyed his stuff. I feel like his characters are so interesting and well drawn and like unique. Like, I mean, really unique. Especially in My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. That was such like nothing I've ever read before. So cool. So maybe not the layout of it, but like the characters for sure and their relationships to each other in the family. Very interesting. The little girl and her grandmother. Oh, it was just amazing. So like finding those books that are a different culture, but that you can really understand them and get into them and like appreciate them is such a cool thing. And I think like the resolution to do that more is so smart. Like that is just, it's gonna help you be more empathetic to other cultures and to understand them a little more, I think.
And all because Aldi had like a cute little calendar for sale.
Yeah. Aldi is
great.
That.
Yes. Oh. Yeah. So, Becky, what is your next resolution?
So, I'm not quite sure how to even describe this. I love history. Mm-hmm. I enjoy biographies. Mm-hmm. But I find that something I never pick up are the nonfiction books that impacted history. So whether it's history of ancient Rome or something my husband has been after me to read for a while is Alex de Tocqueville's Democracy in America.
Oh.
2 volumes, people. And he's like, it's so good. You need to read it. And I'm like, it's really long. And that's another thing is I find I'm very intimidated by long books. And I mean, Kate, I think you've talked about this before. A long book shouldn't intimidate you. If it's really good, you'll really enjoy it. And Bethany, I know when you were talking about The Woman in White, you were like, it's over 600 pages long, but it really doesn't feel that long. And I felt the same way because I was just blazing through it. Nonfiction just takes me a little while longer to get through. Yeah. So the other thing, as kind of a contrast, what I tend to gravitate towards, you can only see my arm. What I tend to gravitate towards are either like accessible biographies. So I read David McCullough's book on the Wright brothers last year. Slim, very accessible. It was easy to read, easy to understand. I've read these 2. I also enjoy micro histories. So like books on very specific topics. So this is the history of bundling. I've read it twice. The footnotes are hilarious because I need to see if I can find an example. Like some of the footnotes take up almost a whole page where it's just talking.
That's hysterical.
It's pretty hysterical. Okay, I did enjoy these. They have a list of poetry and songs that reference bundling. Again, so for those of you who don't know what bundling is, it's like more commonly in New England, if you had a visitor or a suitor and you weren't married yet, you weren't allowed, it was improper to sleep in the same bed, but family members would like tie you up, like bundle you up so you couldn't move.
It's in The Patriot.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, so I've read Bundling, Its Origin, Progress, and Decline in America, which is totally random. And then my husband found this for me, The Inheritor's Powder, A Tale of Arsenic Murder and the New Forensic Science.
Perfect for you.
Yes, amazing. Exactly. I read it and I was like, this is so cool. It's an entire book just about arsenic poisoning. So anyway, so I'll pick up
would also love that.
Huh? Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll pick up like really weird little books like this. But when it comes to things like Democracy in America or Political Sermons of the America Founding Era, 1730 to 1805, which I think sounds really cool. Like, these are all political sermons during America's founding.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it'd be so cool, but I look at the size and I become so intimidated by it. But these, while some of these might not be as well known, these sermons and what people were talking about in their churches and in their communities were what sparked the American Revolution and our, the early settlers in American history. I just get intimidated by them. So I have not decided yet what I will pick up and slowly work through.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if it's going to be one of these because my husband enjoys these kinds of things. So we've got a lot of this kind of thing on our shelf that I never read.
Yes.
But I'd like to pick up one of those, something, and slowly work my way through it. And I don't know if it'll be like one of those chapter a day, I take a couple months to read it or what, but I just feel like I really limit myself with what I learn and explore simply because of length.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got a few comments that I've been like reading, but haven't been able to get a word in edgewise. So we've got a nice little conversation about Pride and Prejudice and Emma going on. So Grace Taylor, I read Pride and Prejudice. Do you think I should read Emma after I haven't read it? I don't know. I haven't read Emma either. So Bethany or Kate would have to answer that. Rainy Day Reed says, Wives and Daughters, yes! And Grace, yes, Emma is honestly so different from Pride and Prejudice. It's so entertaining. I mean, Pride and Prejudice is entertaining too. It's one of my favorites, but Emma is humorous and on a different level. Cool, thank you, Rainy Day Reed. Sorry, I wasn't like trying to ignore you guys with reading that. You just got so excited talking about random things.
And I feel like Emma is like one event after another.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they have this party and then this party, and yeah, it's great.
I think there's more characters you can laugh at. I feel like there's no character that's like wicked, like Wickham.
Yeah.
Feels, I mean, like, yeah, you can kind of laugh at him, but you're kind of like, I hate this guy.
Oh yeah, you're the stomach. Yeah.
The characters in
I enjoy disliking characters. The black part of my soul is like, ooh, you're evil. I don't like.
Maybe you might hate Emma. You might hate Emma.
Yes, she's a very divisive character.
Yeah, some people really can't stand her. So, I mean, you might end up really loving to hate Emma. So, who knows? You might love
Mr. I feel like we're on a game show. And you guys are like, you need to read this. And I need to find a way to spin it to make sure you love the book.
There is a character you would love to hate in Wives and Daughters. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah,
guys, just saying.
For those of you watching, this is I wish we could get a count. Like every time we do a live stream, it's gonna become a game. We need to have like a little counter every time. I'm like, yeah, I don't know that I'm gonna read this book, Kate. I'm just a little bit nervous. And Kate's like, no, you should read it. We should be like, this is how many times Becky has denied. This is how many times Kate has said read it.
All right, Bethany, did you have another reading goal?
Yeah, I want to read a couple more nonfiction a year than I have been. I really enjoy nonfiction when I do pick it up. Like I love biographies and autobiographies, and I really love like books about writing, editing, the process and stuff like that. Because I mean, if I could have any job in the world, I would love to be an editor. I just love it. When I worked in a newspaper, that's one of the things like I really enjoyed doing was editing the paper. It's just weird. Like, again, back to words. I like to make the words do what I want them to do. But I think that nonfiction is like something that you kind of put off because, like Becky said, it sometimes takes a little longer to read than a book of the same size in a fiction. So you're like, oh,
yeah.
Nah. I don't think I'll read that. I don't need to be educated. But every time I pick one up, it always ends up being really good. So I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to be more like intentional and pick them up more often. Like maybe one every other month. I don't need to be like crazy and have five every week or something. Like, okay, I gotta get through these. You know, I don't want to bog myself down, but I do want to like be more like conscious of like, oh, go pick up a nonfiction book. Find something you don't know anything about and read about it. Like, I just think that would be, I would appreciate
Yeah.
that in my reading life a little more so.
Bethany, have you read Stephen King's On Writing?
No,
Yes.
that
So
sounds good.
Stephen King wrote a book on writing just about, I haven't read it, but my husband is, well, hear me out. My husband is a huge Stephen King fan. And Catherine, if you're watching this is going to be like my third, fourth time mentioning you. My sister-in-law is working on her master's. And so John was like, Catherine, you need to read Stephen King's On Writing. And he sent it to her. And she was like, she sent us a picture. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm like marking all these things. Like, this is really resonating with me. Like, this is so good. So I've heard it's a phenomenal book and it's nonfiction. And Stephen King is a phenomenal writer. He just writes things that are a little bit creepier than what I enjoy reading. But they are so creepy because he's amazing at character development.
Mm.
Like, I wish he wrote happier things because if he did, he would be my favorite author. I just can't. He just gets a little too dark for me, but he is phenomenal. So I think if you like books on writing and you want a more nonfiction book, from what I've heard from two people in my life whose opinions I highly respect, that might be a good one to try. And I don't think it's that long for a Stephen King book. I mean, a lot of his books are like 900 pages, so it might be 500 pages. And I'm like, oh, it's not that long. But from what I recall, it's not that long.
I will definitely put that on my TBR for sure. Because
Like,
yeah, that's
I would like to read it at some point, even though I'm not a writer, just because I enjoy books. So exploring how books come to be.
Of course, yeah. It's
Interesting thing.
fascinating.
Yeah,
And maybe it helps us understand too, like why we don't like something or why we do like something. You know, like we keep saying, like there's something about this book and I can't put my finger on it. But maybe if we read a book about the writing process, we'd be like, I know the word for that now, like or the words or the phrase. I know what that is, and I don't care for that. I don't know.
Something I do also appreciate about Stephen King's writing is he's so good at tapping into nostalgia and pop culture, not in a, oh, look, we made this pop culture reference, isn't that so cool? But a pop culture reference that evokes a feeling, and a pop culture reference that really sets you in a mood or a time or in an era. And he's really good at tapping into why people gravitate towards those things. So I don't know if he talks about that in his book on writing, but I'd be fascinated if he did. So now I want to read this book. Guys, I swear my TBR gets so much longer every time we do one of these live streams.
Well, we try to make it even longer with, you know, Emma suggestions and other poetry books, and you're knocking them out. But then when you have to recommend a book to me that you haven't read, you sell it to yourself. So maybe that's the real trick. We need to have you recommend Emma to us and recommend poetry to us, and you'll sell it to yourself. And then you'll be like, oh, rats, TBR just grew again. Twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay, the next goal is, since I'm planning on reading, hopefully, knock on wood, all the books on my like Victober 5-star TBR predictions, I decided to take part in, it's on Becky's bookshelf is the vlog, and it's the Victorian Reading Challenge. So there's 20 challenges, and just it has one, read a book published between 1837 and 1840, between 1841 and 1850, etc., all the decades. A book of poems.
You can do it.
A book of short stories, a play, a children's book, place name in the title, character name in the title, blah, blah, blah. So I'm hoping to make my way through that challenge. I have plenty, of reading in Victorian era that I was planning to do this year, because I got so tired of like the last 2 Victobers. Then I was like, oh, I didn't read any Victorian literature this year. I just tried to cram like so much into October. So I'm trying to spread it out a little bit because I want to do like a smaller actual TBR for Victober.
Right.
So we'll see how this plan goes.
Do you know when The Importance of Being Earnest was written by Oscar Wilde?
It's like I'm sure it's the last decade of the Victorian era.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it squeezed in the last decade or if it was Edwardian.
Yeah, I'm like 90% positive it's Victorian.
Okay. Have you read it or seen it?
No, but that's the play I actually have picked.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
It is so good.
I've only heard good things. I really want to read it, and I really liked The Picture of Dorian Gray. So that was my first Oscar Wilde, and now I'm like, ooh, I think maybe Oscar Wilde and I are really gonna get along. I want to read.
Yeah, I've read and seen two film versions of The Importance of Being Earnest, and I've seen a stage play. So I've seen it I've experienced it like 3 or 4 times, but I've never read A Picture of Dorian Gray. I'm Bethany. I think you've read both.
What? Both Importance of Being Earnest. Yeah.
Are they very different? Like, can you?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking that they were like pretty opposite.
Yes.
The spectrum.
Yeah, they're very opposite because The Importance of Being Earnest is a comedy.
Yeah.
Whereas The Picture of Dorian Gray is kind of like more philosophical tone. Yeah, gothic.
Okay.
A little more like dark, I guess.
I looked it up, and The Importance of Being Earnest was 1895.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
So it just fits. And Rainy Day Reed says she just added on writing to her TBR.
I'm
99% in line with us.
I'm 99% sure that that's the title. I think we might even own it.
I think it is the title. I've heard a lot of booktubers who read nonfiction talk about it.
Yeah. He also wrote Danse Macabre, which is basically, it's nonfiction, but it's basically about the horror genre, both in writing and in film. And my husband read that, and he's read so many sections of it out loud to me. Like, and so many things I like actually agreed with and resonated. I'm like, man, now I'm gonna have to go back and read Danse Macabre. Which that one is a little bit longer. But it's not just straight up horror. Like, he gets into some of the suspense and like what makes a good suspense or a good horror story, and kind of the art of writing that, and also things that haven't worked. Where it's like, yeah, no, please don't do this. This is bad writing. This is bad storytelling in film and in writing. So, yeah, that's another one.
So, Becky, did you have another reading goal?
I didn't hear which B person.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Becky.
Oh, mostly just getting over my fear of long books. So I know Kate
will do that to you.
Read and really enjoyed Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
This past year, 2018. What year are we in now?
2019.
2019.
It was my second read through of it.
Okay, so someone actually found this copy and gave it to me. I was like, oh, this is another nice, like, big book that I could take a month or more to read it if I wanted to. I know Kate really enjoyed it, and I've heard, the thing that I hear frequently is it's such a good book. Scarlett O'Hara is terrible, but the storytelling is just so great. So I'm like,
you'll love to hate her.
Exactly. So I would like to try to get to this year. I don't really plan out my TBR for the whole year. I just kind of have like peaks of like, yes, these are the things I really want to get to. And then a monthly challenge will pop up or whatever. And then my husband gave me this very nice copy of Vanity Fair, which I've also never read. And it's this gorgeous edition. And he assured me that he got a very good price on it on eBay, which I was happy about. Because I'm like, this is a very expensive book. He's like, no, I really wanted that. And I'm told the protagonist's name is Becky.
Yep, Becky Sharp.
But she's like deplorable.
She's another Scarlett O'Hara.
Okay. Maybe. Ooh, would it be bad if I read these two in the same year?
No.
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 It'd be fun to compare them.
Okay.
And there are also like other characters in both that shine and are pretty prominent
Okay.
that you'll end up liking, I think. I mean, maybe not, but
Have you read Vanity Fair, Bethany?
Yeah, I've read both. Gone with the Wind, I've read like twice. It's been a while since, probably like 5 years since I've read it last.
Okay.
And Vanity Fair, I read 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I have
Yeah,
this
like-
weird compulsion. I need to read all the books with a Becky in them. I guess I'm vain or something. Oh, Vanity Fair. I'm really good at making bad puns. Anyway, so yes. So reading, getting over my fear of starting long books because I'm afraid I won't like them. I keep having to tell myself it's okay if I DNF them, but I can't. I have to start them to DNF them.
Right.
So
Well, I find in general with classics, I have to give myself a pep talk before like starting them. It's like, because it's so not instant gratification reading.
Right. I think part of it too is like for me, when I would set a really high Goodreads challenge goal, that would kind of be in the back of my head and preventing me from picking up a big read because you feel like you're going to be behind because you're spending so much time, like with The Suitable Boy. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to be spending so much time on this because it's like 4 books. But it only counts as 1 book. So then you kind of feel discouraged because you're like, well, I could read 4 books and be ahead or whatever on my challenge. So maybe like part of it too is like, okay, mindfulness, like I'm going to read a lot of big books this year. So I'm going to set my challenge back so I don't feel, or just forget about your challenge in your head. I don't know, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Well, something I was thinking about too is because I do have that problem where, especially by the end of the year, I'm like, oh, I'll just read a bunch of kids' books. And then, whoa, I read 10 books. Wow, that's so impressive. They were all under 100 pages. But last year, I really wanted to read A Count of Monte Cristo. And I told myself, I was like, I just want it read in a month. If it takes me a month to read it, I'll just pick it up when I feel like I can. I can read other things with it. And I still read like 134 books last year, even though I really took my time with The Count of Monte Cristo. And a lot of that was audiobook. There were a lot of children's books. I'm not planning on reading 134 books this year. If that happens, great. But I wanted to have good quality with my reading. And I did want to hop on the Betsy Tacy challenge. And I know a lot of those are more like children's middle grade into more like those adult reading level. I think those will be pretty easy. So like that's a guaranteed, like, was it like 12 or 14 books? Kate, do you remember?
12 books, yeah.
12 books, yeah. So that's a guaranteed 12 books that won't be as challenging.
11 books.
Okay, yeah. That's anyway, over, around a dozen books that I don't think will be incredibly challenging. So I can kind of balance that out with longer, more difficult. And again, like, I just need to get in the mindset that just because a book is long doesn't mean that it's hard.
Right.
Like,
yes.
The Woman in White.
Exactly. Jane Eyre is pretty long, and I didn't feel like it was that long.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if it's feeling like it's really long, I just need to get over myself and DNF it.
Yeah. Well, Gone with the Wind, I don't feel like, even though it is huge, I don't feel like it reads that way. Like, it doesn't read like heavy. It goes quick.
It does. Oh, it does.
I would be very interested come December to like go back and watch this.
Yes.
I'd be like, you were wrong. It was horrible.
We're like, guys, you were so right. I should have read it sooner.
No, this is what will happen. You'll be like, I'm so over Gone with the Wind, but I found like this huge book of poetry and I'm totally in love with poetry now. Oh.
It'll be like weird too. Like it'll be like, guys, I found science fiction poetry and it's the greatest thing ever.
Oh my gosh. No, it'll be like about poisoners, corpses or something.
Does H.G. Lovecraft write poetry? Or did he?
I don't know.
Possibly.
That's another one my husband keeps telling me is I should read some Lovecraft. And I've been a little afraid to because he's like, ooh, it's really creepy. And I'm like, that does not encourage me to pick it up.
I read one of his books. What book did I read? Love and Mr. Lewisham? Is that right?
No, that was a...
Wasn't that Lovecraft?
That was H.G.
Maybe not.
It was a Victorian author from like...
Oh, no, maybe it was H.G. Wells.
Yeah, that would
Yeah,
be She
that's
Wolf.
what it is.
Okay, all right. I'm getting these authors with their
I
little.
know.
This is the downside of reading 90 or 130 books a year. You're like, that's too many to remember. I read this book by this
Didn't I
author
read
in bed.
that? This is what Goodreads is for. It's my reading brain. It keeps track of these things, so I don't have to.
Yeah, sometimes I'll scroll through and be like, oh, I forgot I read that 4 months ago.
Isn't that so sad? I know. That's a downside. Like, think about reading like 200 years ago. Books were cost a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
but the books that you read, you really, really knew because you would read them a lot of times. So that does lead into I want to reread 5 books this year.
Do you have books in mind for it?
So yeah, so the Betsy Tacy series, which I'm just counting as one. People are always like, "Why do people count series as one?" But I'm not going to be like, "I reread so many things this year." I'm just counting it as one. But the other is I don't know what brought it to mind, but I just used some Christmas money and ordered a used copy of The Girl of the Limberlost.
I haven't heard of it.
Really?
No.
It was
Oh, I've heard of it.
okay, yeah. Jean Stratton Porter, I think is the name, but it's about this girl who has like lives in the sticks. I can't even remember what state she lives in. And lives on a farm. And then I can't remember what circumstances, but basically she's sent to school in the city and she really doesn't fit in because she's not like the like sophisticated city children.
Right. She's a swamp child.
What?
I said, right. She's like the swamp child.
Yeah, she is the swamp child. Oh yeah, and her name is Nora Comstock, and then the kids call her Nora Cornstalk. And I know. So, but I think it's I mean it ticks a lot of Kate boxes because well one it's like a compelling female lead. But two she's got such a like connection to nature. And it's a classic. So, and then I don't think there's a sequel. I think Jean Stratton Porter wrote several other but Freckles is another one she wrote. So yeah, I want to reread The Girl of the Limberlost, and I've kind of toyed with the idea of a couple other ones, but I'm worried it's too soon. Like I've toyed with rereading Little Women, but I have this fear of like rereading too soon after, and then it kind of not living up to the memory. I'm just scared to reread that it won't live up to the memory. So,
when was the last time you read it? You know?
The Girl of the Limberlost?
No, Little Women.
Little Women, it was Christmas of 2015.
Okay, so like 3 years ago.
Yeah. Well, now it would be, but I was thinking of saving it for next Christmas. So it would be
so
4
like 4
years. So yeah, we'll see. And Anne of Green Gables. I read that one like 7 years ago.
Okay. So
yeah.
That's another one that I'm like, again, I'm a little worried about putting too many specific books on my TBR.
Yes.
But I read Anne of Green Gables multiple times, like at least 3, if not 4 times. Mm-hmm. And then I forget, is the second one Anne of Avonlea or is it Anne of the Island?
Anne of Avonlea.
Okay, I read Anne of Avonlea. I think I've read Anne of the Island, and I haven't read it. And I read each of those once. And I haven't read any other books in the series. So I'd kind of like to go back just because I hear you guys and Kate from Life Between Words.
Yeah.
She's a big Anne of Green Gables fan. She talks about it so much, I'm like, I now feel motivated to go back and read the entire series.
I know. Okay,
so I'm hesitant to put it as a goal for this year, but it's in the back of my mind.
Okay, I have very complicated feelings about the Anne of Green Gables series, okay? Because the first Anne of Green Gables, the actual book, I think like I would call a literary masterpiece. Like I think it's a classic. But I remember the last time that I went back because I didn't read those books growing up. I actually tried to read Anne of Green Gables as a kid and like not feeling it. Like it bored me, which I know sounds very silly now because I love it so much. But it just did. It wasn't the right time. And then reading the subsequent ones, I was kind of underwhelmed by them. Like, I didn't think the writing was quite up to the same standard that Anne of Green Gables was. But I also wonder if now I would enjoy it more because I've read The Blue Castle and Jane of Lantern Hill, and I think they're definitely very in keeping with her writing style. So maybe it just wasn't the right time for me to read the rest of the series. I don't know.
Yeah, I wondered too, because I remember as a kid not wanting to read the later books because Anne is older. And it was just kind of like, oh, like adulthood, that's kind of boring.
Adulthood.
But now it was like, oh, like I liked Anne as a child and as a teenager. And now I kind of wonder, being an adult, if I'd be able to appreciate, if I'd be more interested in reading those, because I would be closer to the age that Anne was in some of those books. I don't know.
Yes.
But I wonder if some of it is just the stage of, like you said, like not the right time. Maybe it's also just stage of life.
Yeah. Yeah, it was weird. I don't, like I said, I don't know. Just The Blue Castle and Jane of Lantern Hill, I did not feel like bored at all.
Well, I feel like The Blue Castle is a little more mature, not like inappropriate, but more like, I think it's meant for a more mature audience, which was what got me thinking like, oh, I don't know because I haven't read them, but I wonder if some of the later Anne books were meant for a more mature audience.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And it would make sense since she is older and more mature in them.
Yeah, but I don't know because I haven't read them. Like Laura grows up in the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, and I feel like those are still very much meant for children.
Definitely.
So, I don't know. More books. I just added like 5 more books in the TBR, guys.
I know. Now I think you want to fit in everything. I would love to reread also the All of a Kind family series.
Oh, I'm going through those right now. They're so cute.
You are?
Yeah. In fact, the 3rd one just came in for me on Overdrive on audiobook today.
Do you like them?
I do. They're really cute.
Oh, Bethany, have you heard of these books?
No, I haven't.
I loved Emma from A Bookish Princess actually knows them. And she said in one of her videos, she was talking about the All of a Kind family books. And she's like, whenever I meet anybody who knows All of a Kind family, I'm like, you know All of a Kind family? Like, let's be best friends. But it's a really fun setting. It's a Jewish family in New York City. Or is it are they in Brooklyn or?
They start in New York City. And then in the second book, the end of the second book, they move to Brooklyn. Or they're like building a house in Brooklyn. I don't know if they're...
Okay. And it's Edwardian era, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you just get to... It's 4 little girls?
Yes.
And you just follow them, and it's just very, like, about the relationships in the family. And the one, like... There's a library budding romance with the oldest daughter. And this boy, he's like always like looking at her admiringly while she's there. And he sees, she always picks out this certain book at the library. And so he leaves a note for her in this certain book. And because she always files it away in the wrong place, so she can find it and read when she gets back. And a librarian kind of sees the whole thing happen, and so makes an executive decision not to file it back correctly, so she can know that the note will be received. Yeah. So
they're cute too, because I don't know if all the books are like this, but at least the first 2 are sort of like Harry Potter or the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, and that they kind of go through the year. Okay. So they hit all the holidays, which is really cool because I feel like so many American books hit all the Christian holidays. But with the All of a Kind family, you hit all the Jewish holidays. You get the kids looking forward to Hanukkah and Passover, and they talk about, all the Sabbath and Yom Kippur and all this other stuff. So you kind of get to see another side of immigrant America that I thought was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, they're kind of, I feel like since you enjoy the American Girl books, it makes sense then that you would enjoy these. Yeah. It's obviously not Jewish holidays in Betsy Tacy, but I like that you follow, it goes through the year.
Yes.
In them. So, yeah. Well, I'm at like 8%, 8% battery.
Okay. We have been
So,
Yeah, I
talking
had to
for a
move.
while.
I was at like 19. I'm like, I can't plug my phone
yes.
in.
Thank you, ladies. As always, this was a blast.
This was a lot of fun.
Yes.
I'm
So
now super pumped and want to go read a book right now.
I know.
And it's the
I'm gonna
weekend.
go up and read my little portion of Vanity Fair because I'm reading it on Serial Reader. So
Ooh, fun.
yes, I love it. It's always like it'll be like, "What ho? You have a new issue ready," and then it'll be like jolly good whenever you finish an episode.
Oh my gosh, that's
It
awesome.
cheers me on.
Delightful.
Yes. Alrighty, ladies. Thank you, and thank you everyone who watches our very rambly discussions. We appreciate it.
Yeah. They say in the South, bless your heart. I don't
Yeah.
know how you get through it, but we, it's
Yes.
fun for us. So,
Yes.
Alrighty. Well, have a good evening, everyone.
all right. Good night. Happy weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.